Now, Republican Mike Lawler says the Iranian people should rise up and reclaim their country. President Trump has said that regime change is not the goal. The goal is to prevent Iran from getting a nuke. Number 13.
Look, we are not going to send U.S. troops in. We are not seeking to force regime change. But I think the president's point was very simple, which is if the Iranian people, after 46 years of living under this tyranny, under the oppression of the Ayatollah and his terrorist regime, if after 46 years the Iranian people are going to rise up and reclaim their country, this is the moment, with a weakened Iran, with their air defenses obliterated, with their nuclear program on the brink, this is the moment by which the Iranian people may have the best shot to secure their own freedom. And if that happens, there will not be anyone around the globe who feels bad about the Ayatollah and his regime collapsing.
That is Republican Representative Mike Lawler of New York. Look, there have been times when early on in the Obama administration, was so-called the Green Revolution, where a number of Iranian dissenters appeared to be growing in power and in strength, and there was a feeling that had Obama given them at least verbal support, if not any kind of undercover support, maybe, just maybe, the regime could have been toppled, but that didn't last very long. So you never know. But since the Republic of Iran started in 1979, the Islamic Republic, I don't believe the regime has ever been this weak. So who knows? Press Secretary Leavitt says that if Iran won't engage in diplomacy, there should be regime change. Number 14.
The president's posture and our military posture has not changed. The president was just simply raising a question that I think many people around the world are asking. If the Iranian regime refuses to give up their nuclear program or engage in talks, we just took out their nuclear program on Saturday night, as you all know. But if they refuse to engage in diplomacy moving forward, why shouldn't the Iranian people rise up against this brutal terrorist regime? That's a question the president raised last night. But as far as our military posture, it hasn't changed.
So if there is regime change, it makes complete sense, but that's not our goal, says the press secretary. Number 15.
The president believes the Iranian people can control their own destiny. And what he said last night makes complete sense. If the Iranian regime refuses to come to a peaceful diplomatic solution, which the president is still interested in engaging in, by the way, why shouldn't the Iranian people take away the power of this incredibly violent regime that has been suppressing them for decades? And so our posture has not changed. Our military posture has not changed. These were decisive precision strikes that were successful on Saturday evening. But the president is just simply raising a good question that many people around the world are asking.
As we've discussed, the term regime change has now become a four-letter word given Iraq, given Afghanistan. But John Bolton, who fell out with Donald Trump, former Trump national security advisor, says that ought to be our publicly stated objective. Number 17.
President Trump late last night floated the idea of regime change in Iran. How do you feel about regime change as a U.S. goal?
Well, I think it should be America's declared policy. The regime itself is the problem here. It has been all along, both through its nuclear program, its ballistic missile program, its support for terrorist groups in the Middle East, around the world. This regime's been in power 46 years. It will not change its behavior. So the only foundation for long-term peace and security in the Middle East is to overthrow the Ayatollahs.
His argument is that the Obama deal was a disaster and that they cannot be trusted, so we ought to blatantly, openly argue for regime change. Number 26.
The president did rush in saying completely obliterated. If you were in his national security staff, would you be expected then to parrot that language? Because it seems like from the Secretary of Defense, we've heard that language and others, when in fact, obviously it takes time, and it's understandable that it takes time to gather bomb damage assessment.
Well, when you're a subordinate, you're supposed to support the president in public. So what I tried to do in circumstances like that would be to say the president believes that the targets were obliterated. That is a true statement. That's what he believes.
In terms of the diplomacy, I know you have talked about you believe there should be regime change in Iran. I assume that has not changed. What do you see on do you have any hope on a diplomatic front, getting Iran at a table, whether it's direct talks with the U.S. or through others?
I think that's fruitless. I think it's a total waste of oxygen. The Iranians remain determined to get nuclear weapons. The 2015 deal that Obama struck was a huge mistake. The Iranians never should have been allowed to enrich uranium. People don't understand that enriching uranium to reactor-grade levels is 70% of the work to enriching it to weapons-grade levels. And just being able to use the technology, the knowledge, gaining...
So, as I said before, even though the Trump administration is not using the term regime change, that is what it hopes.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.